Hello, it's Anton. Today I'm going to be talking about William Shakespeare and why he invented words. Now, there are a lot of videos and a lot of articles written about how he invented words. If you're not familiar, he primarily did this in four ways. The first way was he would add prefixes or suffixes to existing words. For example, he changed the word majesty to majestic. He also put words together to make them compound. For example, he combined hot and blooded to hot-blooded. The third way is he would take foreign words and turn them into English. For example, he took the Italian word bandito and that became bandit. And the fourth and final way is he would change the type of word, for example, from a verb to a noun or a noun to an adjective. For example, he took the word laugh and changed it to laughable. And that's all good to know, but I was really curious about why. If a person makes up words today, they're not widely adopted. So why do we use so many of his words? Well, in order to explain that, we have to talk about how many words there are in English and how many that a regular person will recognize. In English, there's something like 1 million words. There's around 170,000 in current use, and generally speaking, an educated English speaker will know between 20 and 30,000 of them. For example, according to this vocabulary test site, my vocabulary is something like 30,000. And this is what got me thinking about this, because it said, "You are Shakespeare. You can create new words that will expand the English dictionary." Now that seemed obviously silly to me because I did go to college and I studied communication, but I'm definitely not Shakespeare. Now that test measures what's called latent vocabulary, also known as recognition vocabulary or passive vocabulary. This is in contrast to manifest vocabulary, also called use vocabulary or active vocabulary. Now, of all English authors, Shakespeare had by far the largest use vocabulary with 31,534 distinct words, which means that he used more distinct words than I even know. And I've read most of Shakespeare. However, someone's use vocabulary is far smaller than their recognition vocabulary. So at this point, we have to wonder, if Shakespeare used more words than I even recognize, how many words did he recognize? The English language at that point had around 150,000 words, and since he used 31,000, one of the earlier estimates of how many he must have recognized was over 40,000, which means that he knew at minimum a quarter of all words in the English language. Now, since there are 1 million words today, you would need to know 250,000 words to equal the conservative estimate of how much of English Shakespeare knew. Using statistical analysis, Bradley Efron and Ronald Thisted got a different answer. They came up with the answer that Shakespeare probably knew around 35,000 words that he did not use, which means he knew around 66,000. And remember, English at that point was only around 150,000 words, which means Shakespeare knew 44% of all words in the language. Because English today is around 1 million words, a person today would need to know 440,000 words to have the same mastery of the language that Shakespeare did. And just as a reminder, as a pretty educated person, I know less than 1/10 of that. This means we can say with certainty that no person before or since has ever had mastery of the English language like Shakespeare did. And so we get to the root of why he invented new words. He had to make new words because he was reaching the limits of what is possible to know. And if he didn't know a word that fit what he needed, he had to make it up. If he didn't know the word, it was very likely that it didn't exist. This gives me a newfound appreciation for Shakespeare and his work, and I definitely intend to go back and read some of it with a new context in mind. And that's it for today. Thanks for watching. See you next time.
Like Hamlet, all about words, divide a whole into thirds.